Is it? Oh, hell.
We're live. Good afternoon, everybody. It's Michelle from JD Gallagher's, and today I'm joined with Chris Roberts from Lancaster House Clearances.
Hello
now,
there.
Hello, Chris. Lots of people will know Chris around Lancaster as he's exceptionally well known. I'll say it myself, exceptionally popular and has everybody in stitches. And because Chris is very well known for his flat cap, that is why I am actually decided to look like Chris's daughter today. Cassie's going to love me for that, and Louisa, aren't they?
Oh,
So,
yeah.
Chris, over to you. Introduce yourself, please.
Right, I'm Chris Roberts. I have Chris Roberts House Clearances. It's a relatively new job title, new business, but it's just I've hived off from C&G Recycling, which I used to be the owner of. Sold most of the business, but carried on doing house clearances.
And how long over the years have you been doing house clearances, Chris?
20 years now.
20 years?
Yeah.
And can you still lift the way you used to live 20 years ago?
I can still lift anything, Michelle, that anybody else can lift, but my nails are ruined.
Right, what we want to know is, obviously, in your industry, and I don't mean this horrible at all, but, we all know, like estate agents, there are good and there are bad. House clearance people, obviously, people are sometimes a bit nervous of. Yeah. So the first thing I want to ask you, because obviously you've got 20 years experience, you're very reputable in the area, is in simple terms, what actually is a house clearance?
Well, the most common house clearance is to actually be given the keys to a property and told to clear the whole lot, top to bottom. This is often done by a solicitor or members of a family. It's often difficult times for people as well because they may have lost somebody. That's why the house needs clearing. And we can take absolutely anything, but we need to identify stuff. That's the biggest part of it, is identifying stuff. I do like to go and meet the people. I do like to find out a bit about them. And you've got a chance to show a little bit of respect for the property as well. And then start to identify how we're going to get the place emptied and what we're going to do with the stuff.
I suppose, of course, the obvious thing, is when somebody has lost somebody, isn't it? And of course, as you say, the entire house needs emptying. But do you do people like, for instance, a downsizer? So a while ago, I've been asked to sell one once lockdown's over. Lady in a big house on Haverbreaks, but is actually going to be going to a 2-bed apartment.
Absolutely, yeah. I go in and speak to people, look at the sort of stuff that they need. In those situations, we don't often do removals, but we have done in places like these. If people go into a 1-bedroom accommodation, sheltered accommodation, or even bought a smaller flat somewhere. So you get an idea for what they are going to be able to take with them. If need be, we'll take it for them. I do like to put that in the hands of a proper removals company, and then I take the rest of the stuff and dispose of it, whichever is the best way and the most cost beneficial way for the people. But downsizing is a major part of the job, especially in Morecambe. A lot of people retire to Morecambe, perhaps lose a partner, see themselves in a 3 or 4-bedroom house on their own, and it's too big.
Okay.
So they look for other accommodation and flats or whatever, and I go and try and help them with it.
And what happens? So we've got a downsizer. We've obviously got the one where somebody has lost somebody. Yeah. What about when somebody actually? Well, look at me, typical estate agent. Yeah. So we sell a house. It's supposed to be completely empty when the person moves in, and it's not.
Yeah, that's a difficult one, and I get a lot of work from obviously from yourselves and a lot of other estate agents. When people move out of the house, they do really have to have the place emptied. They can't leave stuff behind unless it's been agreed with the purchasers. So it can, sometimes it's dead straightforward. I get a phone call, the people are moving in, the people have left something. Chris, can you go and clear it out quickly, take what's left? Which I do. I don't know how they go about where they get the money from to pay me. It's always a bit of a grey area, but I think if they're moving out, then the place should be empty, so it's their responsibility. But I've had this where I've worked in the evening because people are moving in the following morning, and the garden shed's full. Or the most recent one I had, where the gone house looked completely empty, and the attic was crammed. I've absolutely filled my van. It took 4 hours to empty the attic. Absolutely crammed, and it wasn't malicious or anything. They just totally forgotten all about stuff being
4
done.
hours.
4 hours took two of us, because obviously you're upstairs. You've got to drop it down the ladders to get it onto the landing, then bring it downstairs and out to the van. So it just soaks the time up, and often in midsummer, it's not the best place to be in the attic, and it's amongst the cobwebs.
Sauna.
Yeah, it can get a bit lively up there. Yeah. So yeah, there's a lot of that happens where people have left things in the back garden. We've had plastic toys and things left behind huts, and in fact, that was one of the last jobs I did before the shutdown, was to go and clear out a shed, where often people leave a hoe and a spade and maybe a hose pipe, or I think that's quite fine. But when you leave 300 and all that type of stuff, and garden gnomes and rusty old lawnmowers and things like that, I think that's not really fair on the purchasers.
No, I'm not sure about the garden gnome. We all like a garden gnome or two. I can see now garden gnomes. Off we go to MDG with that.
Next time I get some,
yeah.
Not doing with you, yeah.
Okay, so as an estate agent, obviously, I suppose, honest opinion from you. Well, we had one, Checkers Avenue. Okay, so Checkers Avenue is a house that I valued, and the client said, how am I best to show this? Now, obviously, without being rude to them, and if you're watching, I do apologise. There was items in the house which definitely did cleared. One, because I didn't want any valuables in. Secondly of all, because the house looked cluttered, i.e. walking sticks, Zimmer frames. But then also things that I wanted leaving in to actually show the rooms better. How does that affect somebody like you?
Right. Well, obviously, the thing that you mentioned there was really important, was if somebody's putting their house on the market and they're going to have people visiting and coming round, the first thing you need to get rid of are valuables. So I would always get rid of the jewellery, certain types of pottery, certain types of glasses, things that might be valuable and might actually bring some money back for them. I would get those out straight away. You're exactly right in what you say, in that emptying the wardrobes, getting rid of the clothes, emptying the kitchen shelves, everything in the kitchen really needs to go. Not washing machines or things like that leave a massive, awful gap behind them, and just they don't lend themselves to the sale. But yeah, sometimes three-piece suite can stay because it's decent, it's leather, it's whatever, it just fits in nicely. Leave that for the viewings. If it's got cigarette burns in it and it's obviously seen better days, it needs to be out. I can do whatever people want me to do. Sometimes they just say, look, leave it sparse so it looks lived in. Some people want you to do that purely to make it look as though it's lived in rather than to sell it. They just want to look empty. But I can do it. I can do whatever they want. The difficulty is that I find is that I'm then going to the house twice. So there is a slight element of extra cost in a double visit.
Okay, but if it's left furnished and I can get more money for it because it presents better.
Correct. Yeah.
Surely, if I can get 2,000 or 3,000 extra, sometimes more, that should easily negate your extra cost.
Absolutely, yeah, without a doubt. And obviously, I'm not part of that negotiation view. It just looks to me as if I say, well, I can clear the house out. If I'm doing it in 2 visits, it's going to be £700. If I'm doing it in 1 visit, it's going to be £550. There is that little bit of a difference. On the other hand, sometimes, and which you've done and others have done, is the purchasers have actually bought some of the stuff that's been left there. So that's the other way of doing it, which can then reduce my cost. So it's pitching in to try and do, we're both trying to do what's best for the customer here. We're both trying to, you're trying to get the best money. I'm trying to get the job done and not take as much, off them as I could do. I just need to take the right amount and do it right for them. It's a bit like, do you get a skip to the house, or do you take it all in your van? So I work out which is going to be the cheapest. If the garage is full of old tins of paint and the old gates and all the other rubbish like that. And there's loads of old MDF furniture in the house, which has got no second-hand value and really no recycling value. Then sometimes to hire a skip, cram all the heavy stuff into the skip and just pay for that one skip works out slightly cheaper than putting tons of stuff in a van and paying for the weight. So you've just got to get the balance between the two, which is best value for money.
And I guess you can calculate all that once you actually see the job, can't you?
Once you see the job, Michelle, I can tell straight away. You don't want to be putting settees and wardrobes in a skip because you put 3 in and it's full. You want to be putting all the small, heavy stuff in the skip. And I also segregate all metal, put it in the front garden, and make a phone call to one of the lads that comes round. And there isn't enough money in it to warrant take it to the metal yard, because by the time you've driven to Morecambe, you've added another hour on your bill. So I've got a couple of lads that are very, very good lads, and I just say, right, I'm at such and such an address. It's all in the front garden. It has to go today, and it always gone. So again, it's just a case of using what's the best way of getting rid of stuff.
So really, it's also your knowledge book of who you know to actually come and.
Oh yeah,
I won't have a clue who to call for that.
Yeah. There's all sorts of people you can call. It's a little bit like when you're looking through the house and you're looking at what's valuable, what's not, what'll sell, what won't, and you've got this list of, well, I would take that to the sale room. I would take that up to 18 auctioneers who I do a lot of work with. I know it'll sell at auction. I've got to get it right because I don't want to charge somebody to take stuff to Kendal and then not get the money back, to cover that cost. So I do identify stuff and get that up to get it logged in for them, and they then get the proceeds of whatever it sells for. Some occasions, I get obviously really valuable stuff, and in certain cases, the solicitors need to know the value of each individual items if it's a tax date. So I can call in any one of the experts, depending what the stuff is. It's coins, records, stamps, clothes, militaria, you name it, jewellery, the superb jewellery. I can call in whichever's the expert, or maybe just take a photograph of some pottery or some photographs of odds and sods. Things like pianos. Pianos don't sell well at all. They've got to be very special. They've got to be very, very good, a great make, to make it worthwhile transporting to the auction and trying to sell it. And I'm not an expert on pianos. I know some that I would take automatically without ringing, but I can photograph it on my telephone, send it straight to the lad, and within 2 minutes I've got an answer back saying, well, not that one, Chris, no, or oh yeah, we'll have that.
Okay.
So I'm in contact with them all the time, and in fact, I will be doing a little bit of work for them up on site as well as doing what I'm doing now. I will be helping out on site with other auction materials and other lifting and fetching, carrying, no doubt, but I still will be working with them. So they're pretty good up there. I also get things valued by GB Antiques.
Yes,
Alan
Antiques.
And up there, two absolute gents, massive wealth of knowledge on anything. Sometimes you've got to look, even though I've got a bit of an allegiance with 18 auctioneers, because obviously the closest auctioneers and they're all good people, but sometimes there might be items which can be better sold direct to a dealer. So A, you're not paying for it to go to Kendal. B, you're not paying the commission. Somebody might just give you the money. Now that's an option that the customer has to decide on.
Yeah, do they sort of take what's on the table or take the gamble?
Absolutely, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, recently I cleared one house, and there was £40,000 worth of musical instruments.
You're joking?
No.
What sort of instruments being nosy now?
Mainly electric guitars, electric banjos, but clarinets, oboes, 1890 recorders, really fancy keyboards, Fender amplifiers, just absolutely crammed.
Were they a musician?
Yeah, the composer and music teacher. In fact, the guy, Kevin Kendall, who's the musical instrument expert at the auction, when he got the stuff and he started to look at what he was getting, he looked at the name on the paper, and it was the guy that actually taught him to play the guitar about 30 years ago.
Oh, wow.
So, but it was a 3-bedroom semi, and I got told could I go around quickly, get the musical instruments out, because they were having trouble to insure it with the solicitors. So I went round with my little van and absolutely crammed it to the top, and had to go back with the bigger one to get keyboards and trumpets and it just went on and on. 30 mouth organs, but there was some really, really very high quality guitars in there. They went into the January sale at 1818 Auctioneers, which will be on the internet if people want to look at prices. But real quality stuff.
Now you see, Graham from our office would be very, very jealous.
Oh yeah, he
does.
Yeah.
Right, I've got some questions for you because obviously, knowing we're having you on today, I spoke to a few people and I said, what questions would you ask? One, Chris Roberts, and two, a house clearance person. Right. Some of these have come from estate agents, some have come from people in Lancaster, Morecambe, my dad.
Right.
Okay, so one of the questions which has actually I've been asked 3 times to ask you is, do you clear everything, or are you one of these people that picks and chooses what they want and leaves the rubbish behind?
No, I clear everything.
Okay.
I clear everything, and I'll even deliver certain items that people want for beneficiaries, people that inherited stuff, often not of value, but of sentimental value, and they want it to get to wherever it's got to go. We have actually gone down to the South Coast with paintings for somebody that wants to make sure they got there right, and so yeah, everything that needs to go, everything that people want to go, including removing stair lifts, because quite often, we get to a house and people say, "Oh, we'll leave the stair lift in and see if it sells." And I'm not so sure it's the greatest selling point there's ever been, and it's going to be a nightmare me getting all those wardrobes downstairs.
Yeah, I don't often get a buy of a 3-bed semi wanting a stair lift.
Not really, no. But, I mean, as time goes by, it'll probably help me to get up and down the stairs to empty it.
There you go, as you get a bit tired.
I'm not getting any younger.
Right. Next question is, how do you identify that something might be valuable?
Really, that's just experience. You look at stuff, you look at things right down to going in the garage, wooden step ladders, the old clothes horses that are made out of wood, all those will now sell. You look at the furniture, and obviously you're looking for Urkel furniture because you know that'll sell well. Certain toys and games, things that sometimes are just piled in a corner and saying, "Oh, all that can go." And you think, well, just a minute, that's Thunderbird 2 there. That's this is £70 or £80 worth of there. And so it's going backwards and forth the auction and having just that knowledge of what's like to go. One thing that I can say is that sometimes I'll go into a display cabinet, and obviously to turn every cup over and read the bottom of it, and it just soaks the time away. So what I do, I put all those into boxes, take them up, log them all in as miscellaneous. So it should be 10 boxes of miscellaneous for whoever they're going to pay. Every one of those boxes gets sorted through at the auction. So somebody's not going to go in there and pay £12 for a box of pottery, and in there is a piece of Moorcroft pottery that's worth a lot of money. They all get gone through, and if there's better items in there, they'll single them out and put them to one side and give them their own lot. So I take all pictures I take up there. I'm not an expert at painting. That's to me is a bit of a grey area. I take all pictures up there. They go through them. Some of them are put in general sale. Some of them are sold in batches of 5. But every now and then there's just 1 or 2 that's local artists that will sell well, that are sold separately. And maybe in an antiques auction, they might not even be sold at the same time as the other stuff. Because that's another thing that people don't seem to realise about the auction. There's so many different categories in the auction nowadays. Like if I took up shotguns, they're going to go in a special sale. Could be 2 months' time before they're sold. But all the other goods that I've taken from the house might have already gone. If I take a load of furniture and there's antiques in it, the antique sale might not be to the month after next. Where they just advertise better categorised, and expect more money for them.
Yeah, John took me to Lots Road auction in London. And I discovered that there was different times for different things and different days.
Yes, yeah. It's just you get certain specialists. That sale in January is purely a music sale. There was all the records, collectible LPs. Like I say, Graham will know all about it. There were thousands of LPs for sale. There was sheet music, pianos, every musical instrument you can think of in that auction. It was quite an eye opener. Was that one?
Okay, ready for your next question?
Yeah, go on.
Okay. What happens with the things that need to be thrown away? Can things be recycled?
Well, they can. I got to segregate stuff a little bit in the van. So electrical items I keep into one corner. When you get mattresses, three-piece suites, stuff like that, nobody's going to want them. Old MDF furniture, the 1940s type utility wooden furniture, the dark wood stuff, just doesn't sell at all. And basically that just gets broken up. All the stuff that's wood gets taken out at super skips and goes down to be chipped and made into other stuff. But there, undeniably there's landfill. You can't do anything with the. They do actually take mattresses apart and pull the metal springs out of the middle.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, and they do have a load of gentlemen there on what they call the picking line. So they're going through stuff, just taking certain things out that can be recycled. But again, we segregate as much as we can and try and get things in the right order for when we're taking it off. Things like televisions are separate because, in actual fact, they're classed as hazardous waste. So televisions are sort of go into a separate pile. You have to pay an extra few pounds for tipping a television.
Okay.
And fluorescent light tubes, of course, have all got to be separate, dealt with totally separately, and they're hazardous waste, and they're segregated, especially at the super skips because they've got mercury in them, so they need to be kept separate.
Right, my dad's question.
Yeah.
I'm a retired accountant.
Oh hell.
Yep.
Right.
I have lots of confidential papers in the house.
Yeah.
What will happen to them when I go? Oh, thanks, Dad.
Right, Dad. What I would do with those is, obviously I've just sold C&G Recycling, which was my business, which was mainly data protection and confidential paper shredding. So I still have an arrangement with Jamie Smith, the new owner. So I bag it all up. I carry his bags with me for this sort of stuff, and every house has this. I get the letters from behind the door. The relevant letters I keep and either mail them on to the person I'm working for or give them to the solicitor. But all the other stuff, bits of mail shots, anything that might contain any information, I bag it all up, take it all to Jamie. He shreds it all. He gives me a bill for shredding it, and I just add that onto the overall bill.
So you can arrange the shredding of those, so literally everything in the house can go.
Oh yeah. Also, computers, Michelle, is another one, because you get people that say, "Oh, it's an old computer, you can give it to charity." You can't, not just like that, because a lot of people don't have a clue what's on it. So we have a guy, we actually call him Computer John, who removes hard drives from stuff, takes bits out of them, recycles bits and what have you. But we can't just give a computer or a laptop to somebody without it being properly wiped. So I hand that to a different, because as you know, this is a major challenge for me.
Yeah.
Never mind wiping a computer.
Hey, you did exceptionally well getting onto this today. You know, we're all very, very proud of you. Right, that's this is an interesting one. Yeah, so we've done those there. You've answered them in different questions. This one, okay. Are you ready?
I am. Go on.
What are the 3 strangest jobs you've had or things you have found in a house?
Right. One of the strangest was in Morecambe, where we went to clear a 3-bedroom semi, and we noticed that there was probably about 20 televisions in the kitchen. And this is a trend that carried on for the rest of the house, and we actually got to 202 televisions.
Working.
Which is a bit because none of them were digital. They were all old. And I think what had happened, the guy had set himself up as a repair man, without actually having the knowledge to repair anything. So nobody got the televisions back, and of course we achieved a time where everything went digital, so nobody wanted them back. So unfortunately, when he passed, we ended up with a 16-ton skip
full of TV,
which was a little bit of a shock to the system. We had one. It was strange what was in the house, because we actually unlocked the house and walked in, and the gentleman was sat watching horse racing, eating fish and chips. So we'd gone to clear the house, and I'm not saying which which organisation it was, 'cause it wasn't a company, it was an organisation that asked us to clear it, had given us the wrong address. The guy had only moved in the day before, and we were supposed to be doing next door. They'd given us the wrong number. So I'd walked in the middle of his tea. Unfortunately, I mean, if he had been shopping, he'd have come home to nothing. We'd have thrown everything away. His house would have been emptied because we got the key, we got the address, we got the right place, but it was a bit of a typing error. So if he hadn't been there,
So if they hold the keys, being an organisation.
Yeah, it's quite a good one, was that one. The biggest shock was one in Cartmel, and the house, nobody been in it for years. It was in a trust in the Isle of Man. It was mega cobwebs. It was going with a rake and sort of straight the cobwebs down. 4-poster bed, all with woodworm. As you're walking past stuff, it's falling apart. It's like Indiana Jones. It's like falling apart. And there were 17 outbuildings. There was an old grass tennis court outside. It's always been a very wealthy man today, but just everything was just overgrown and awful. And we got part way through. We got 2 traps out of one particular place, and finally, I managed to cut a lock off the barn. And when I opened the barn, it was a full-size squash court inside, proper squash court, full size with a viewing gallery, everything there. The red line still around the wall, and a Hillman Minx convertible right in the middle of it, a 1962 Hillman Minx. And you just think, well, I thought we'd nearly finished, and now, and they built on the end of the barn as well, so the car couldn't come out sort of the normal way. You couldn't roll it out, so we had to get a telehandler and lift it up and clamp it and turn it sideways and bring it out sideways. But in the middle of Cartmel, what looks like a barn, and inside's a squash court. That was
with a car parked on it.
With a car parked in it. I shouted to Gavin. I said, "Have you got a minute, mate? Yeah, I've got a bit of a surprise for you."
So what did you do with that then?
Well, the car broke in half as we moved it. It had rotted away, which is a shame because it had only done 18,000 miles. We still got a buyer for the engine and for the trim and stuff like that off it. But cars are often quite interesting. We had one on Scotforth Road. The houses on the left-hand side as you drive up Scotforth Road, they look small at the front, but they go right down at the back.
Yes, they do.
This one had a garage right at the end of the garden. And we cleared the house, and all we're doing was now just getting the few things. You could see some tyres and that in the garage. And when we got all the tyres and all the trees that had grown through it, we cut those back. We found a 1964 Ford Zodiac that had been parked in there since 1968.
Oh.
But unfortunately, where the passage is at the back, there probably used to be a hedge or perhaps a field behind it, I don't know. But the turning circle wasn't enough to get it out. You couldn't turn it to get the thing out. So we had to rig up a tow wagon with a wire and a spare wheel to make a pulley that would pull it out and then pull it sideways to get it out. But again, somebody bought it. That went to Essex. So it's well, you never know what you're gonna find.
That's brilliant.
We found a cat in one house. It'd been in there 3 weeks on its own. The relatives had been up and taken the paperwork and the stuff that they wanted, and they didn't realise that their old uncle had a cat.
Oh, was he okay?
It was a bit on the thin side, but he made a full recovery. So, well, that was a bit of a shock when you walk into a house, you don't expect something to be there, and I said, I think I've just seen a big rat.
But you know, we had one years ago, a repossession where they'd left the cat behind, the rabbit it was.
Oh, yeah.
And I found myself having to go up to the Spar shop and get some cabbage and carrots and bottle of water and called RSPCA. And they just said, see if the owner comes back. And it's like, well, they've been gone a month. I very much doubt they're going to come back now.
Oh, God.
Anyway, I was saying to John, I think we're going to end up with a rabbit. But as it was, one of the neighbours said, could they have it for their little girl?
Bloody hell. I say you never know. One strange thing that was a real strange thing, I don't know, it takes some thinking about, but in a house, every house has got the clocks on the wall. And every clock was stopped at the same time, and it was the exact time that the person had died. Now, how can 3 large clocks on the wall all stop?
Were you a little bit nervous?
No, not really. Just lift him down, get on with it. Afterwards, I mentioned to Gavin. He said, "Well, I wouldn't have gone in if you said that before."
I can see Gav saying that.
Just a bit strange, just a bit odd. So,
Oh, there are odd things out there, aren't they?
oh yeah.
Right. I'm now going to ask you, because obviously we've been on here a while. So, lockdown.
Wonderful.
Okay. Yeah. I'm going to say, as somebody who's always out and about, whatever time I arrive at work, I generally pass you on the street somewhere in your van. How are you finding lockdown? What's the hardest bit? The bit you miss the most? And what are you secretly enjoying?
I'm not enjoying any of it. I'm used to be doing 60, 70 hours a week, and selling CNG recycling meant that I could probably drop it down to, hopefully I was going to do about 35 hours a week, but I've dropped down to none. So I'm the first self-unemployed person. I've actually done one job since I went self-employed, but they're all lined up ready. But I think the strangest thing is I've been married nearly 41 years, and I've never spent this much time with the wife before, and I'm not so sure I made the right choice when I was married.
Poor Judy, you're live to the world, Chris.
You can't do it. She's a bit of a whinger, and the other thing is,
Judy, he loves you really.
a lot of the neighbours I've never. I know some of them, but a lot of them that I've never met, because I've gone to work before they get up, and they're back home and tucked in before I come back. So there's a lot of them that I've met as they walk past, and to be honest, I think quite a few of them should be locked up, never mind locked down. I mean, you know me, I'm not one to comment, but
anybody in Holton, he doesn't mean it. He loves you all dearly and really.
I've told them. I've told them this is not a secret. I do let them know. I was pressure washing my van the other day for the 14th time, and I hadn't seen the little lady walking past, and I sort of blew her bonnet off with my Karcher, and she just looked at me and started laughing, which was good, because I thought she was crying, but realised that she was just wet. And I told it was the new neighbourhood wash scheme.
Just pass out the shampoo, she goes past.
Yeah. Oh, she's stunning now. Oh, she's stunning.
Just give her a bit of a wax, a bit of a polish.
My makeup kit makes you like the lead singer of Kiss. But yeah, it's absolutely dreadful. I hate it. I just really need to get back and get moving. My van's immaculate, but I do need to put something in the back of it soon.
But that's a positive. You've got an immaculate van.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah.
Okay, we're gonna dig deep and find some positives for you. So yeah, so you're getting to talk to me right now here. So
there you go. There is that. Obviously, drinking very heavily.
Saturday night quiz night that you do with your family. I've seen that.
That's really good. The theme this week is summer, so we've got to. I can't see me with the mankini on, but I could put the handkerchief on my head with the knots in it, and perhaps with sunglasses, and maybe turn the heating up a little bit to make it look warm. But yeah. Last week I was the question master, and it was Christmas, so when everybody came on, the effort that we put was great. I mean, they had the trees up, Christmas cards all over the place, dressed in all the red thing, presents that they really did it well. Useless at the quiz, absolutely useless. They couldn't answer any of the questions, but they looked good.
At least a little part, John always said about, I wanted to take up golf, and off I went shopping to go and get stuff. And John went, you don't want to be a golfer that looks the part, as in you've got the gear, but you've got no idea.
Exactly right. That's exactly right. It's something that's taken too seriously. You don't want all the check stuff and all the gear and all the expensive stuff, and then start wafting around at it. No, it's not good.
Yeah, it's not a good look.
No. We've missed our golf. We have our annual golf, which is due at the beginning of July. So I can't see that. Again, same family that are in the quiz, but I can't see that happening. My mum's 90th birthday on the 17th of July. She's got that planned for her favourite Indian. I'm not so sure. But been it a bit there.
A positive. she could become like the Queen, where she has 2 birthdays.
Do you think so? He's not getting 2 presents.
Oh no, 2 presents, 2 everything.
No. Oh no.
A bit like 2 Christmases, 2 birthdays.
Birthdays. Well, she not. If she said, "What? Look, Mum, I bought you 400 cigarettes for your birthday. What else do you want?" And she'd say, "Another 400 cigarettes." That's all she wants is cigarettes. It's awful walking to her house. That's why I ordered all these masks. I'd already bought up the whole supply just so I can go see my mum.
Anyway, on that note, thinking of your mum and the masks. So it has been an absolute pleasure, Chris.
Well, thanks for calling. And I say that hat takes years off you.
Oh, thank you.
You need to get John on.
I'm thinking, the hat, and then when I go out valuing, I'll have my mask.
I think if you're going to have that hat on and you're going to put a mask on, paint a moustache across the top of the mask because it goes with that sort of hat.
There you go. I think I'm growing one already. Right. On that note, we will say goodbye for now.
Okay, Michelle, all the best, and I hope everybody stays safe.
You too. Take safe, and remember, keep on washing those hands.
I do. Cheers,
Toodle pips.
Ta-ra.